Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show. Different environment. I've been kicked out. I've been kicked out of the study because the other half has started the masters that she's been doing for a while and she needs to study. So I've been kicked out and I'm now in the living room, which is a weird place to be sitting and doing a podcast, but that's what it is. Getting a little bit festive. We've got the pumpkins out and ready for Halloween. But other than that, it's the normal show and the normal place and the normal time. Not normal time. Usually we do this a different bit later. Unfortunately, because of Wednesdays, my shifts on Wednesdays with 101 are from 2 in the afternoon to 11 at night. So there's no chance of doing previews out later in the evening. So we're early on in the day doing our preview show. So let's crack on with it. So, Dundalk, bit of a strange one because I know nothing, absolutely nothing. And I'm sure plenty of you don't know too much either. And that's why, first of all, got a bit of a plug to make. Our good boy Eoin, one of our expert members and regular podcasters now, on his own channel, Gooner Craic. Make sure you go over and check it out. Link is in the description. Had a chat with the boys over the League of Ireland TV. A couple of boys went on his channel to talk about that in detail. It's an hour-long show, so if you want to get some more information about Dundalk specifically, make sure you click the link in the description, head over to Owen's channel. I'm sure he's around in the chat box somewhere, probably. It's Owen. Of course he is. Yes, he is. Of course he's in there. So make sure you go over and check out Owen's stuff and find out a little bit more about Dundalk. But we're going to be mainly focusing on the Arsenal perspective of today's preview, looking into a game which is... It's really strange because Arsenal are in a situation now where, in my opinion, should be using these Europa League games to effectively experiment, try some things, because we were quite lucky with the group that we got. They were up against opposition which we should be comfortably beating. We made the Rapid Vienna game a lot harder than it really should have been. And in my opinion, they're the hardest team in the group, Mulder and Dundalk. I'd argue Mulder beating, obviously, Dundalk last week, that they are the better sides. But this home tie against Dundalk should be a game in which we can experiment a lot, field some of the youngsters, get players playing that haven't necessarily played too many minutes this season, give some players debuts this season. I believe when I talk about some of those players in my lineup, it will make a lot more sense. And then we'll obviously go into some more aspects. In terms of what their position in the League of Ireland, they are third as far as my understanding. I did watch Owen's thing and took a couple of notes down for the show in terms of that, and to sort of summarise very briefly, as I said, if you want an in-depth analysis of them, please make sure you click the link in the description. But they're a side that are good with set pieces. They can nick a goal from one of those. They got fast wingers and could attack us down that side. So Cedric and Kolasinac are going to have to be on it. They're a side that can nick a goal. It's fair to say they're a threat at times in the game. And we've conceded silly goals on multiple occasions to sides where I genuinely thought we would have absolutely no problems at all. But we remember Ostersund's, for instance, is one of those examples. So there's been times where Arsenal have conceded goals quite, I don't use the word, it's just, I just suppose, like, just willy-nilly, really, like pointlessly conceding goals. And this is certainly one of those teams that can hurt Arsenal if they need to. So let's have a look in terms of the lineups about what we might predict. So if we have a look at what I've gone for before we go into Arteta's predicted lineup. So this is what I'm feeling we should do. Let's just move on AK's comment very quickly and talk about this lineup. So I'd like to see Runnison given a shot in the team this game. It'd be good to give him that opportunity. I know that Leno has had a little bit of a tricky time of late, and maybe we should continue playing him. There's no reason why you can't not rotate goalkeepers. I think that's important, but I think that Runnison should be given a shot in goal this game, personally. Then we go into the back line. Now, Arsenal, ironically, with their plethora of different centre-backs that they've got in the actual club, they're actually a little bit bereft of centre-backs right now, and so I still feel we need some element of rotation. I don't know as to the fitness of Callum Chambers, if he would be ready for this game. He's back in full training. I don't know if he's ready. If he is ready, then play him. Okay, if he's ready to play, then Chambers should come in, but I'm basing this off of what I know of players that are fit. I think Gabriel needs to be given a rest. And my opinion is that El Neni, who has featured at centre-back for Arsenal in the past in some of these Europa League games in his career, could slot in there to provide rotation. That is the only reason El Neni is there. It is to provide rotation because Mustafi and Gabriel are effectively our only fit centre-backs. That is why El Neni is there. Okay, so before we lose our minds in the chat box, Elneny is the one that has played at centre-back before. Alternatively, you could put Cedric in at right back, and you could put Mainsley in at right back. So you could put Cedric in at right centre back and Mainsley in at right back. But for me, or alternatively, you could put Kieran Tierney in at left centre back and Kolasinac on the left back slot. So that is an option. It's just a possible option for Elneny to be there. But Gabriel, I think personally, needs a bit of a rest. That does mean, aerially, at the back, we are a little bit down on things. Mustafi and Elneny are not the tallest, and Gabriel certainly provides you that extra presence, as does David Luiz. So maybe we would be a little bit more under threat from set pieces. But I think this is one of those games where it's important to see rotation. Let's look into the midfield. Willock and Mainsley and Emile Smith-Rowe. Now, that kind of combination there, I think, is interchangeable. Willock is more of an attacking, thinking midfielder, as well as Emile Smith-Rowe. So those two can kind of interchange and switch between the sort of centre mid and centre attacking midfield position. Mainsley, for me, has to play in the midfield. I don't know why. He's not seen enough gameplay this season. In my opinion, he should be seeing more. But he has to come in. Then the front line, you may be surprised, I've talked about rotation, to continue with Aubameyang. Now, the thing is with Aubameyang is that he's always been someone with a really strong injury record. He's never had issues with fitness. He's never needed to be rotated in the past. And I'd still feel that sense now. And I think that Aubameyang's completely fine to be bringing him in. Renat says Saliba should play too. Well, Saliba can't play because he's not in the Europa League squad. So, unfortunately, Saliba, as Daniel says there, can't play. One of the biggest mistakes that we made, unfortunately, with our Europa League squad was omitting Saliba. I'm sure that they thought he was going to be sent out on loan, but that wasn't the case. Nketiah and Nelson make up the other two attacking positions in the team, and I just don't expect this to happen. I mean, Kuroko says 0% that Arteta does this, and I'm probably inclined to say that too. How I think Arteta might set up is I think it's going to be something maybe more like this. So Cedric, Mustafi and Gabriel, he has a habit of just not rotating the centre-backs when we need them. So Gabriel and Mustafi remaining. Leno continuing in goal. Kolasinac coming in at left-back. Then a midfield of Willock, Xhaka and Elneny. I just get that horrible feeling that Emile Smith-Rowe is not going to be given a chance with Pepe and Nketiah and Nelson as a front three, with Aubameyang possibly being rotated out for this game. And Nketiah will be playing. Nelson, I imagine, will be playing. Pepe might be put in to sort of continue that and trying to give him that confidence and that advantage. But this is kind of the prediction of how I think that we might see Arteta field his 11 in the game. Continuing with that back four, I think that needs to be a norm. I would like to see those midfielders not playing so passively, not dropping into the back three, but actually taking the ball to the opposition and not really passing out to the wide areas as much. I'd like to see some passes played into the middle. I think that's a really important thing that we've just lacked and not really been doing whatsoever at Arsenal for a while. Is we've been so passive in passing the ball out to the wide areas that we've been neglecting passing the ball into the middle of the pitch. Daniel says, why can't this be the one game that Alba plays through the middle? I mean, it could be. It 100% could be. His XG, ironically, is higher on the left-hand side than it is at striker, which is a really strange thing. His expected goals is higher playing on the left wing than it is at striker. Could you believe that? So when everyone's saying that Aubameyang should be playing striker, actually his expected goals goes down playing in the middle. That's based off of our last couple of seasons or so. So that would be really interesting. Yannick says, I'd be more excited to see this team play than the first team. I think I'd be a bit more excited if Emile Smith-Rowe is in the side. I think that's one of the biggest things about the selection is seeing that Emile Smith-Rowe plays and gets given minutes. I don't think it's not exciting at all to not see some of the young players play whatsoever. It's actually a little bit of a shame that may have been said. AK says time for ESR to shine. 100% agree. Doug says Kolasinac, I would love to see Mainsley play. I would too. I don't know why we're not seeing Mainsley play as much, but for just some reason we're not seeing him. Dave J. Lennon says, I'd drop Xhaka for Mainsley in that formation. There's a possibility that might happen to give Xhaka a bit of a rest. Xhaka was given a rest, say, against Liverpool, because he played, obviously, 2 games against league opposition, and then we came up against them in the was it in the Sheffield United game? I believe it was, where he played both games against Liverpool and then was rested maybe for the league game. So there's that option as well. There's plenty of things that Arteta could do. We've got a really big squad full of lots of players in different positions, and all of them could come into this game. He might choose to go with something strong just to keep the momentum going, keeping that sort of consistent formation going. It's a really strange one. Let's get on to predictions then before we wrap up today's preview. Let's get your thoughts and predictions about the game. We talked about it on yesterday's podcast, or Monday's podcast, about what we might see. And I still think that the Dundalk are going to give us a game. I still think they're going to be a threat at times. And you know what Arsenal are like at the moment. They do allow teams to attack them and to get chances. They have nothing to lose in this game, as do none of those sides in the group stage when they come up against the favourite to win the league, the group rather. And so usually they come out and they attack. And that means that Arsenal can be vulnerable and they can get hurt. And we have seen that already against Rapid Vienna. I know that we pretty much gifted them that goal, but Rapid Vienna had other chances in the game as well. So let's have a see of your predictions for the game. Yannick Max says 3-2. I'm assuming this is to the Arsenal. Daniel Roberts says 7-0. I mean, imagine that. Rohit says 4-1 against Dundalk. Boaty. Oh, wow. Nice try. Bouty cool is what we've gone for there. 3-1 to the Arsenal. Sarthak says 5-1. Doug says 2-1. Vinny Eagle says 5-0. Easy game against a pub team. That's a bit disrespectful, Vinny. Put some respect on their name. I mean, you should see the impact having Europa League football does for these teams. And like listening to Owen's show, I heard them say something like first place in the League of Ireland gets 150 grand. And you consider some of our players get that in a week. So the money that would come in from the Europa League group stage to these teams, depending on where they finish, would be massive for them. And how they spend that and how they use that can have a really long-term effect on the team. So it's great to see that these small sides and these lesser-known leagues are getting the money that's coming to them for earning their place in the team. Alex McCarthy says 4-1 with a hat-trick for whichever striker decides to play. Dave Lennon says anything less than us scoring 3 goals here would be an embarrassment. Wes Lee reckons that he's still recovering from the defeat on Sunday. Yardman says 6-0 to the Arsenal. Emmanuel Ojo, who has become a recent member and joined, of course, our WhatsApp, our Discord server. Thank you, Ojo, for joining in. 4-0 against United and a 2-0 score against Dundalk. I'm personally going to go for a 4-1 win. I just have that horrible feeling we're going to concede. I just see it happening. I'll probably concede first and then turn it around, but there'll still be a meltdown on social media, obviously. It's been a short preview today because unfortunately I've had to do it in unknown surroundings. But other than that, it's been a real pleasure to speak to you guys, as it always is. Make sure you go check out yesterday's show if you haven't already. I had a sit down with Clive and we talked about a lot of the problems surrounding Arsenal right now and sort of the things that we should and need to do if we want to improve things at the club. So make sure you go and check that one out. Make sure you drop us a like on the video if you've enjoyed the show. And of course, could you subscribe if you're new around here? But it's been a pleasure to speak to you guys, as it always is. I will see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.